Today we're going to look at the worst Magic the Gathering cards to understand. And of course we're going to start off with the quintessential of all quintessential cards, as Tommy Sidden says, in before Chains of Mephistopheles. So today not only am I going to read these cards, but I'm going to actually try to understand what the hell they do. Starting off with Chains of Mephistopheles, we got a black one generic enchantment. Okay, it's an enchantment, so it sits on the battlefield permanently. If a player would draw a card, except the first one he or she draws in his or her draw step each turn, that player discards a card instead. Okay, but if the player discards a card this way, he or she draws a card. But I guess that is not going to count for the card that they draw for the turn. If the player doesn't discard a card this way, he or she puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So it basically turns all card draw into rummaging, if I understand this correctly. So if you draw a card, instead you discard cards. So if, let's say I have something that says draw 3 cards, I have to discard the 3 cards first, then I draw 3 cards. And if I don't have any cards to discard, I'm milling cards off of my deck instead. Here she puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. And I'm guessing I don't draw if that's the case. If a player doesn't discard a card this way, here she puts the top card of his or her library into his or her grave. Or do I still draw a card? Okay, what are the rules thing on? Oh god, there are rules. A player's normal card draw on their turn is exempt from this effect. All other draws will be affected. Can they just say the draw from the draw step? Here's what happens when Chains of Mephistopheles replaces a player's draw. If a player has at least 1 card in their hand, they discard a card and draw a card. If a player's hand is empty, they put the top card of the library into their graveyard. The player doesn't draw a card at all. Alright, thank you very much. If anything, all of this should be actually in replacement to what this card actually does. Alright, do we have any other incredibly stupid and confusing cards? Almost every card with text longer than 2 sentences between Alpha and Tempest. True story. Liquid Soulfly. True story. Tommy says, I still think most people don't play Wheel of Misfortune correctly even after playing it a billion times. Alright, Wheel of Misfortune. Let's get to Wheel of Misfortune. Alright, this is Wheel of Fortune at home, basically. Red 2 generic sorcery. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. I guess you have to write it down. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number? Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose, but who chose that number? Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. You're right, I don't get this at all. This is, it's completely went over my head. Because it says, Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. But at what point did they choose that thing? They just revealed numbers to each other. Alex says, I hate secrets. It doesn't say the numbers have to be integers. What if I choose a number in the square root of 2? That's right. You could. Well, then you'll have to do the algebra in the end. You have to do the algebra. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number. Oh, equal to the highest number to each player who I don't get it. I'm reading it over and over again. All right. That's why we go down here. Okay, for each player to secretly choose a number, that player should write it down. Okay, that much I understand. All right, the number of players choosing the highest number doesn't change how much damage is dealt. For example, if the 4 players in your game reveal 4, 7, and 7, Wheel of Misfortune will deal 7 damage to each of the last 3 players, and those 3 players will discard their hand and draw 7 cards. Oh, so the idea is if you choose a high number, everyone else gets gets dealt that much damage? I'm reading this over and over again, and I'm not getting it. I believe the rules do say it needs to be a whole number. So how does this thing work, Tommy? Why do they invent cards like this? Cards nobody can understand, even when you're just reading it in plain English. Increase the difficulty by reading in a foreign language. All right, can't even fly is on the case. Everyone chooses a number. If you pick the highest number, you take damage. If you pick the lowest number, you don't wheel. Ah, oh, I see. Oh, I see. So whoever picked the highest number, they take damage. Everyone else is safe. If you pick the lowest number, you don't wheel. So the idea is you want to pick a number high enough that you're going to get the wheel effect, but at the same time, you don't want to be too high because then you're going to take the damage. All right, moving on. Let's look at Cosmic Seed's Amulet of Quaz. I should change the title of this. Understanding Magic the Gathering's hardest to understand cards. Okay, let's make it a little bit easier by reading the actual Oracle text on Amulet of Quaz. It's a 6-mana artifact from Ice Age. Remove Amulet of Quaz from your deck before playing if you're not playing for Ante. Oh, come on. This is an Ante card. No one's going to play this card. Tap, sack, Amulet of Quaz. Target opponent may ante the top card of their library. If they don't, you flip a coin. If you win the flip, that player loses the game. You ante or you lose. If you lose the flip, you lose the game. What kind of this is adding gambling on top of gambling. Activate only during your upkeep. This card's terrible. This card is terrible and unnecessary and banned everywhere. Okay, Abzo says Goblin Kites. Never heard of it. Which means I like it. Is that a Yu-Gi-Oh card? Reference to the last one? Alright, let's look at Goblin Kites. Real MTG players play for Ante. I don't know, when you're kids. Ah, that is such a problem. Why did they add gambling to the game? Ante seems like such a... I don't know who their target group was, but you know. Elementary school teachers don't like to hear that people are playing for stuff. Alright, moving on to Goblin Kites. We got a red, one generic. Again, we'll read the actual Oracle text. For a red, it's an enchantment. For red, target creature you control with toughness 2 or less gains flying until end of turn. Flip a coin. At the beginning of the next end step, if you lose the flip, sacrifice that creature. I think it's pretty easy to understand. Target creature you control with toughness 2 or less. So if the creature has toughness 2 or less, it gets flying. And at the end of the turn, you didn't have to gamble if it lived or died on its flight. That's effectively what it is. Not a lot of steering on those kites. Fly at your own risk. Mr. E, the word of command. Alright, this sort of has an Oracle text already on it. We got a black instant. Look at target opponent's hand and choose a card from it. So far, so good. You control that player until word of command finishes resolving. But that's like a really short period of time. Like, word of command. Alright, it's done. It goes to the graveyard. While doing so, the player can activate mana abilities only if they're from lands he or she controls, and only if mana they produce is spent to activate other mana abilities of lands he or she controls and or play that card. If the chosen card is cast as a spell, you control the player while that spell is resolving. Okay, you got it. This thing is so hard. I have no idea what's going on. Because as it's resolving, I don't think I can put anything on the stack, so why does it even insinuate that I can play cards? Like, instant, and then it resolves. Look at target opponent's hand and choose a card from it. But I can control them as it's resolving? Alright, so we gotta see what this... I imagine as it's resolving, maybe I can tap their mana or something, but that's the best I think I can do. Oh my goodness, look at this novel that we have under the rules text for Word of Command. To play a card is to either cast a spell or put a land onto the battlefield using the main phase special function. But if you can only control them as it's resolving. You do get to choose which lands get tapped. You can make them choose whatever. Word of Command can't be used to force a player to play a card that isn't in their hand. You control the player while the spell is resolving, which means you get to see anything they can see. If that player is required to search their library as part of playing the card or as part of the resolution if it's cast as a spell, then you can see the cards in that player's library as well. How long is this card resolving? Is it resolving all turn? What's the Oracle text? You control the player until Word of Command finishes resolve. It still says resolving! Even in the Oracle text. This thing's resolving for a very long damn time. Your opponents can't counter the Word of Command after letting you look at their hand. Well, of course, because it's resolved. But they can attempt to counter the spell you force them to cast. So they can still control themselves as you control them. How bizarre. Yeah, the art is me reading the card. Exactly. You may command your opponent to play a land if they have not already done so this turn. You will play this land. You must order your opponent to play the chosen card if it is possible to do so. It's basically you become like some sort of schizophrenic version of your opponent's mind, telling them to do things. If there's a non-mana way to cast a spell, or maybe I should say you become like an alternate personality of this person. As but I don't understand why it should just say like you gain control of target player until end of turn. Sort of. You may require that if there's a non-mana way to cast a spell, as with pitch spells, you may require that way to be used if it is possible to do so. Since the spell is an instant, your opponent gets a chance to respond to it as normal. Once the spell resolves, you look at your opponent's hand and choose a card. Note that it is common practice to respond to Word of Command by using up any spells or mana you have prior to letting it resolve. Yeah, of course. During the resolution of the spell, that player plays the chosen card. Oh! So you're going to choose a card that can be played, and that can be played while this thing is still on the stack. Look at target opponent's hand and choose a card from it. You control the player, and I guess you can only control the one card you choose. The player plays that card if able. While doing so, the player can activate mana abilities. That is bizarre. So while this thing is resolving, stuff can still go on the stack. Okay, but very, very crazy card. I think this is worse than Chains of Mephistopheles. I think we have a new winner here. Most confusing, I think, would be Word of Command, hands down. All right, next up, Diego Goblin game. I don't think that's too hard. If you've played the game before. You know what's even more complicated than the Goblin game? It's called Magic the Gathering. All right, we got Goblin game. Each player hides. By the way, it's a 7-mana sorcery. Each player hides at least one object. Then all players reveal them simultaneously. Boop! Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she revealed. The player who revealed the fewest objects then loses half of his or her life rounded up. And then if 2 or more players are tied for the fewest, each loses half of his or her life rounded up. I think it's pretty straightforward. Hold on. So if you revealed the fewest... Yeah, it's just basically whoever revealed the fewest, they lose the life. Yeah. So try to show as many objects. But what was the thing? Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she revealed. What about the most? Is there not a penalty? If 2 or more players are tied for fewest. Is there... Then all players reveal themselves. Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she... Oh, I see. You don't want to reveal too much because then you could potentially die. So if everyone names like, I don't know, 100 million, 200 million, 1 billion... No, but is there like no... What's the incentive? Like there's no... I don't see any disincentive for choosing a very high number. Oh, I see. Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she... Okay, so you're losing life no matter what. But if you chose the lowest number... I see. Okay, everyone's losing life, but if you chose the lowest number, you only lose half your life. What a bizarre game. Yeah, you lose that. Everyone. So no one wants to choose 100 million because then you would just die instantly. But then at the same time, you don't want to choose anything higher than half of your life total. See, the real hard thing to understand is the strategy here. The strategy. Okay, that is... Okay, I'll admit. That is a confusing card. Alright, moving up. Oh, sorry, you little Ted. Give me another one. I knew you made a super... I knew you made a super chat. I just didn't know what it was. Give me another one, you little Ted. I'll keep a lookout for you. Then we got Crowcore Games. Dart Throw. Not legal, but funny. That's one of those unglued cards, huh? The Unfinity. The Infinite Authority. Alright, we have Dart Throw. It's an attraction. Visit. Throw a card you own from outside the game onto the playing area from a distance of 3 feet. Well, it sounds like some cards about to go from near mint to damaged in an instant. If that card touches Dart Throw, claim the prize. Prize equals create 2 pink teddy bear creature tokens or sacrifice Dart Throw, then open an attraction. Throw a card you own from outside the game onto the playing area from a distance of 3 feet. It's basically a Chaos Orb effect. If that card touches Dart Throw, claim... I see. So this is the target. Dart Throw is the target, and you throw a card, and then boom. You get it. Did we do Illusionary Mask yet? Okay, let's do Illusionary Mask. I'm still looking for your second choice, little Ted. Keep an eye out for you. Alright, Illusionary Mask. 2-mana artifact. Okay, okay, remember, let's remember Warp World. Okay, Illusionary Mask. We got a 2-mana artifact. Pay X, tap. Or sorry, no, pay X, no tap. X, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, face down as a 0/1 creature. Alright, we got Morph. The OG Morph. Put X mask counters on that creature. Can never have too many masks. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So do it at sorcery speed. The creature's controller may turn the creature face up anytime he or she could cast an instant by removing all mask counters from it. This effect ends if the creature is turned face up. So you can just remove all of them? Okay, so the OG text doesn't make any sense. Maybe the Oracle text. It has 2 X costs. Okay, X, you may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid by some amount of... or all of the mana you spent on. What the hell does that mean? It just got more complicated. You may choose a creature card in your hand whose mana cost could be paid by some amount of or all of the mana you spent on. Are they trying to say, like, I have to pay X? X is equal to the card in my hand? And then X, if you do, you may cast the card face down as a 2/2 creature spell without paying its mana cost. So it's errated from 0/1 to 2/2. If the creature that spell becomes as it resolves has not been turned face up and would assign or deal damage, be dealt damage, or become tapped, instead it's turned face up and assigns or deals damage, is dealt damage, or becomes tapped. Activate only as a sorcery. Holy crap! X or less, so you can disguise what it is. Oh, okay, so I can pay 5, put this thing on the battlefield, and so it might be a 5-drop, it might be a 1-drop. Well, what the hell does it say down here? We have another novel. The creature enters the battlefield face down, so none of its enter the battlefield whatever triggers. That I understand. If you use the ability to cast a creature card face down, you must keep track of the amount and types of mana you spend on X. If that creature spell is moved from the stack to anywhere other than the battlefield, the resulting creature leaves the battlefield or the game ends. The face down creature is revealed if its mana cost couldn't be paid by some amount of or all of the mana you spent on X. All applicable penalties for casting a card is illegal or assessed. So hold on, like, it might... It's like some sort of weird morph. You can actually cast the card face down, much as when playing a spell with morph, it can be responded to and countered. The effects that turn... I don't understand the point of paying X to face it down. You may not turn a face down spell face up. You may not turn a face down permanent face up unless it would have morph while face up, or an effect specifically allows you to turn it face up. Illusionary Mask's ability has you turn a face down creature face up if it would blah blah blah. That does not help me. Both the amount and types of mana you spend on X are taken into account while you're choosing a creature card from your hand. For example, if you... I like the examples. Examples help me. If you spend blue on X, you can choose a creature card with mana cost blue 1, 2, or Azorius, among other possibilities, but not one that costs blue or 2, or one that costs green. I see. Okay, so I have to spend it, like, I basically have to spend mana on something that it would have cast. And then, like, how do I turn this thing face up? You can turn a face down permanent face up if it would have morph while face up. This applies to creatures you cast face down as a result of Illusionary Mask's effect. The rest of Illusionary Mask's effect applies to it as well. I can't say that I learned how this card works. And the text box is completely different from the Oracle text. They cleaned it up by making it more messy and incomprehensible. Man, listening to this in the background while working is dizzying. I know. I'm going around in circles. And the number you shall pay will be 3. No more or no less. Yeah, I guess so. Alright, moving on. We've got Warp World. From Yo Little Ted. Please be less okay, Illusionary Mask is now the most confusing card I ever heard of. Okay, red, 5 generic sorcery. Each player shuffles all permanents he or she owns into his or her library, then reveals that many cards from the top of their library. Each player puts all artifacts, creature, and land cards revealed this way onto the battlefield, then does the same for enchantment cards and puts all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield on the bottom of his or her library. Hold on, then puts all cards revealed this way that weren't put on the battlefield. Okay, so effectively, you scoop up everything you have in play, shuffle it into your deck. You know, it's all permanents, shuffles all permanents, so lands, creatures, artifacts, enchantments, yeah, the whole kit and caboodle. And then each player puts artifact, creature, and land cards from... You reveal that many cards from the top of your library. So if I shuffle 10 permanents into my deck, I then reveal 10 cards from the top of my library, and I get to put all artifact, creatures, and lands onto the battlefield. Oh, you can do the same for enchantments? And put all cards... But you can't do it for planeswalkers. So planeswalkers is a no-no. Enchantments, lands, creatures, and artifacts are all good. Good stuff. He said, please be less... Well, I'm begging. I'm begging some of these cards to be less confusing. Rename to trying to confuse Nikachu with card text. Yeah. Challenge accepted by a lot of you. Alright, we got Suncrow Games with another super chat. Sunbird's Invocation. You got it. Sunbird's Invocation, sort of a new card. Red 5 generic enchantment. When you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X or less from among the cards revealed this way without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. This is not too bad. I mean, if you cast a spell, you basically get to double your spells. So you've cast something that's 6 mana. You reveal the top 6 cards of your library. And then you can cast a spell with mana value 6 or less. And you just get to play it for free without paying its mana cost. Play 2 spells a turn. So play big spells, like Sunbird's Invocation. Maybe you can play 2 Sunbird's Invocation. Get basically 3 spells. A million triggers. Poxy likes it. Yeah, sort of a Cascade with fixed cards you can use. That's correct. I mean, no, it's like... It's actually better than Cascade, because Cascade can only find cards with lower mana value. Or I guess maybe it is a fixed Cascade, because you don't dig through your entire deck. You can't cast a 3-drop and, like, dig through, like, your entire deck to find a 2-drop or less. You can only dig 3 cards deep. So yeah, you're right, Bulky. This is fixed Cascade. That's how you can understand this card. This comes in the Chaos Starter Commander deck. It's neat. And I guess it confuses some people. King Ginger with Tackle Maggot. Is it really called Tackle Maggot? I'll look up all the maggots. Oh, it's Tackle. You knew it, but like you spelled it wrong, and it's got a lot of words. Oh god. Whoops. It's got a lot of words here. All right, let's dig into this thing. Is it the same? Okay, I'm gonna read the card. Black, 2 generic for an aura. Oh boy. Enchant creature. At the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, put a -0/-1 counter on that creature. When the enchanted creature is put into a graveyard, that creature's controller chooses a creature that Tackle Maggot could enchant. If he or she does, return Tackle Maggot to the battlefield under your control attached to that creature. If he or she doesn't, return Tackle Maggot to the battlefield under your control as a non-aura enchantment. It loses enchant creature and gains at the beginning of that player's upkeep. Tackle Maggot deals 1 damage to him or her. Okay, I might have understood this one in one shot. I think you put it on a creature, it slowly kills it, and then that creature's controller can put it on somebody else's creature. But if there are no other creatures to put it on, it drains that player for 1, like not drain, but it deals 1 damage every turn. I think. When an enchanted creature dies, that creature's controller chooses a creature that Tackle Maggot could enchant. Yeah, so you could give it to somebody else. If the player does, return Tackle Maggot to the battlefield and attach it to the creature. If they don't, return Tackle Maggot to the battlefield under your control as a non-aura enchantment. Oh, so it says so if there is nothing else it can enchant, it actually goes directly to the original player who cast this. It loses an enchanted creature and gains at the beginning of that player's upkeep. So you basically can slowly drain someone, and then once it's done, it can end up draining you. So it's good, I guess, if your opponent has a lot of creatures, because it has to enchant another creature. And if you have no creatures, but if there's nothing left on the battlefield, then it starts draining the original caster. It's not hard to understand, it's just word soup. Hey, some of these are hard to understand and word soup. We have someone trying to explain Illusionary Mask. When the morphed creature is dealt damage or becomes tapped, he gets flipped over. Illusionary Mask ability can only be done at sorcery speed. I don't know. You're not helping. That did not clear anything up. Alright, we got Can't Even Fly. The super chat. Ice Cauldron is a massive rules. Did we do this one? Oh, and we did not. We did not do the Ice Cauldron. Thank you very much for the super chat. All right, what are we looking at here? 4-mana artifact, pay X, tap, put a charge counter on Ice Cauldron, and exile a non-land card from your hand. Oh, wait, not too hard so far. I put the counter, I get rid of a card. Note the type and amount of mana spent to pay the activation cost. See, that's where they make things a lot more confusing. What is this? This is the wrong song. That was the wrong Wii song. Okay, I will read to the end of this one. You may cast the card for as long as it remains exiled. Note the type of amount of cast to activate the cost. Activate this ability only if there are no charge counters on Ice Cauldron. Okay, so once we put the counter on it, we can't use it again. Tap, remove a charge counter from Ice Cauldron. Add Ice Cauldron's last noted type and amount of mana to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast the last card exiled with Ice Cauldron. So you basically... Oh, I get it's an Ice Cauldron. You're preserving the spell and the mana for later. Why would we want to do this? I have not a damn clue. This just a bunch of nonsense here. Because you spend mana, you exile the card. So you basically paid for it. Now you're just waiting to use it. But then you have to wait. You could get really screwed with this. So you, like, pay the mana, you exile the card, someone blows up Ice Cauldron, and then you're dead. I mean, like, you basically lost. It's a 2-for-1. And you wasted your time. Yeah, wording on the original text is terrible. There's an even worse one. Won't even go there. Not even gonna entertain it. You know why? Because we gotta move on. We gotta move on and thank our sponsors today, FusionGamingOnline.com, my one-stop shop for all my Magic needs. I have been buying. You know what I got recently? Turns out Surgical Extraction. It's a pretty good card in Legacy. Not only that, it used to be like so expensive. Got myself some Surgical Extractions right now because I found out they're like really cheap. They're like below $8 Canadian. And there's nowhere else to go except there is no place I would want to buy cards sooner than at FusionGamingOnline.com. And don't forget, if you want to support the show, use coupon code Nikachu at checkout and also get an additional 5% off all your purchases. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place for renting Magic cards online. I would have never known that I need to buy a Surgical Extraction from Fusion Gaming if I didn't already rent the cards on Magic Online through Mana Traders. You can support the channel when you rent cards using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or save 10% off your first 2 months using coupon code Nikachu_PG2. All right, back to crazy word soup cards. I'm getting way more super chats than I can get through. Okay, Redco with, what is it? Remove enchantments. This is a very, very slow show, so I'm very slow to understand any of these cards. Okay, remove enchantments. White, instant. Remove. Forget it. I'm just going to read the Oracle text here. Why do I even zoom in on any of these cards? Instant. Return to your hand all enchantments you both own and control. All auras you own attached to permanents you control. And all auras you own attached to attacking creatures your opponents control. Then destroy all other enchantments you control, all other auras attached to permanents you control, and all other auras attached to attacking creatures your opponents control. I assume maybe the original card was probably really hard. The Oracle text is even... No, I think the Oracle text was really clear. You all your stuff goes back to your hand. You both own and... Wait a minute. Is this the first time you can take... return to your hand. Can you put someone else's cards in your hand, if I understand? Because if you control someone else's auras and enchantments, then you get to put it into your hand. That would... I didn't think there was a single card that could do that. Is that true? It has no other explanation. Return to your hand all enchantments you both own and control to your hand. And all auras you own attached to permanents you control, and all auras you own attached to attacking creatures your opponents control, and then you destroy everything else. No, but it says own, both own and control here, both of them. Because, you know, Magic the Gathering is very specific about what can touch your hand, what gets into your hand, and it's almost always, I would say, it has been exclusively cards you own, never that you control. Because, okay, and the problem is, like, let's say you put your opponent's card in your hand, and then you have to shuffle your hand into your library, and the cards are, like, different sleeves. Well, that's a little bit weird, isn't it? There's no way you can put a card... Oh, hold on. Oh, I see what you guys mean. Yeah. If I control the card, I have to own it. But just because I control it doesn't mean I don't own it. Hold on. It needs to be... Oh, it has own and control. You're right. You're right. This is classic statistics language. Alright, you guys, you saved me. Now a bunch of people who are typing things up into chat, they've now started to erase it because you guys have saved the day. Yeah, not own or control. It has to be own and control. Okay. Anyway, this card does what it says. Not as confusing as the other ones. Moving on, we've got... I think we just did Ice Cauldron. Thank you very much for the super chat, Brian F. God, we have a whole... Okay, I have to prioritize now some of these bigger ones. Brian F. with the Elkin bottle. Thank you very much for the super chat. I will get to all the super chats, but I'm prioritizing the most expensive ones right now. Okay, Elkin bottle, 3 mana. Pay 3, tap. Exile the top card of your library until the beginning of your next upkeep. You may play that card. I don't understand. Like, that, it just does what it does, right? You exile the top card of your library until the beginning of your next upkeep. The next turn. Or I guess the one that's coming. No, there's no way you could play this. It's basically... You have to activate this either at your current upkeep or somewhere during your turn. So basically, next turn, you can play the card. It's totally fine. Next up, we've got Blue Bomber. I heard we were doing confusing cards. My pick is Word of Command. Oh, we did this one. And this is the worst. This is the most confusing card of today. Or one of. It's in the top 3 for sure. Brian F. Again, imagine playing Shahrazad in Commander. Imagine playing Shahrazad with all these other cards. Thank you very much for the super chat. Jax. Okay, I'm actually blowing through these really quickly. Bureaucracy. Oh, this is not even a real card. It's just a BS card. Okay, Bureaucracy. Whatever. Blue, 3 generic for an enchantment from one of these unsets. Pursuant to subsection 3.1 of Richard's Rules of Orders, at the beginning of the upkeep of each participant in this game of the Magic the Gathering trading card game, hereafter known as player, that player performs all actions in the sequence of previously added actions, hereafter known as Action Q. In the order those actions were added, then adds another action to the end of the action queue. All actions must be simple physical or verbal actions that a player can perform while sitting in a chair, without jeopardizing the health and security of said player. When any player does perform, when any player does not perform all the prescribed actions in the correct order, sacrifice Bureaucracy, and said player discards their complement of cards in hand. I actually have no idea how you would get rid of this, because I assume that everything you would do in the game is legal anyway. And we got Crowcore Games. Thank you very much for the super chat. Crystalline Giant. Oh yeah, this guy is a little bit confusing, isn't he? Okay, 3 mana for a 3/3 giant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose a kind of counter at random that Crystalline Giant doesn't have on it from among Flying, First Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, Vigilance, and a +1/+1. Put a counter of that kind on Crystalline Giant. But you have to choose it at random. You have to choose it at random. Any AI generated could be here. Okay, next up we've got... Oh god, what do we have here? Okay, Brian F. with Elkin Bottle. Thank you very much for the super chat. Oh no, hold on, did we do that? I think we did Elkin. We did Elkin Bottle. We did Wheel of Misfortune. Thank you very much for the super chat anyway. Okay, Blue Bomber. Since we already did Word of Command, what about Raging River without Oracle Text? Alright, let's look at Raging River without Oracle Text. Thank you very much, Blue Bomber. So we gotta read it the OG way, huh? Alright, no cheatsies. Okay, let's look at the alpha. When you attack non-flying defending creatures... When you attack... Non-flying defending creatures must be divided as opponent wishes between the left and the right side of the river. You then choose on which side of the river to place each attacking creature, and attacking creatures can only be blocked by the flying creatures of those on the same side of the river. Honestly, it's not bad. Based on all the other cards we've read today, this is as clear as day. So you ignore the flying stuff your opponent has, and you basically divide the playing field into two parts, with your creatures and their creatures, and then they can only block the stuff that you want them to block. So you could put, like, I don't know, your big trampler in front of their, like, puny little dinky guy with very small toughness. I heard that's, like, very similar to Space Bellerin, as you guys have already mentioned. Let's look at Space Bellerin now that we've been primed up with the Raging River. Space Bellerin, Legacy legal. Blue-white, 2 generic for 3 loyalty Jace. Space Sculptor. Space Bellerin divides the battlefield into alpha, beta, and gamma sectors. Alpha, beta, and gamma. So there's 3 of them. If a creature isn't assigned a sector, its controller assigns it to 1. So you can only, opponents assigned first. Oh god, so the opponents get to put the stuff first, and then you have the high ground, essentially. +1, creatures in each sector can be blocked this turn only by creatures in the same sector. So by default, they can block anywhere. It's only through the +1 that it says creatures in each sector can be blocked this turn only by creatures in the same sector. And then -1, put a counter on each creature in the sector of your choice. So wait, including your opponent's creatures? On each creature in the sector of your choice? Oh, I guess that could be true, because maybe you have more creatures in one sector than your opponent's. And then -5, destroy all creatures in the sector of your choice. Weird. Too many sectors. Let's sector it up. Oracle text of Dance of the Dead, Ice Age, only 107 words. P.S. What site do you use to check cards? I'm using Scryfall. It's the place to check cards. It's the place of all place. It's the place to be. What do you call it? The rulings on Ice Cauldron make is what makes it a mess. I know, I totally agree. Thank you very much for the super chat. Can't even fly. We did Ice Cauldron. We've done Ice Cauldron a million times. Everyone's like, Ice Cauldron, Ice Cauldron. We did Ice Cauldron. All right, Brian F. with the super chat. The OG alpha text on Ancestral Recall. How am I supposed to force? Oh yeah. Cards that don't do exactly what you think they do. We gotta look at all the prints. We look at the OG printing. Draw 3 cards or force the opponent to draw 3 cards. No, I don't want you. No, you're going to do it. Grab their deck. Put this in your hand. Get it in there. Am I supposed to threaten them until they draw? Yeah, you do what you need to do, damn it. No, it's like they are just forced to do that. Okay, Redco with the super chat. Steam Flogger Boss. It's just nonsense. Oh, one of those old cards. Sorry, the Future Sight cards. 3/3 Goblin Rigger. Other Rigger creatures you control get +1/+0 and have haste. How many Rigger creatures are there? If a Rigger you control would assemble a contraption, it assembles 2 contraptions instead. Didn't they bring contraptions back in, like, Unglued or something? Whip the X's, pinch the O's. What we're building, nobody knows. It was an uncard first. I think they brought that thing into the uncards. There are no other riggers, and there are no such things as contraptions. So that's it. This is this one and only thing. I guess it like triggers off of itself, right? You can give other new you get another Steam Flogger boss on the battlefield. It gets +1/+0 and has haste. If it would assemble a contraption, it assembles 2 contraptions instead. They're looking too deep into the future. Okay, so we don't have contraptions yet? Not yet, but one day. Sorry, I'm a bit confused here. Hold on. Okay, next up, we've got... Well, let's take one from chat. Christopher seems to be trying really hard to get on here. All right, so ambiguity. Let's look at ambiguity. What's it with you people choosing these stupid uncards? All the uncards are literally useless. They're confusing on purpose. Okay, blue, 2 generic enchantment. Whenever a player plays a spell that counters a spell that has been played, or a player plays a spell that comes into play with counters, that player may counter the next spell played or put an additional counter on a permanent that has already been played but not countered. So it's a play on counters and counter. If I understand correctly, like, beginners are so confused. Like, you counter the spell, would I put a +1/+1 counter on this thing? No, it's countered as in it goes straight to the graveyard. There are 2 types of counter spells or counters in this game. Counters that basically destroy the spell before it even enters the battlefield, and also counters that go onto the creature in the form of +1/+1 counters and first strike counters and lifelink and so on. We do have riggers and contraptions. Look up garbage elemental. Yeah, well, yeah, but the thing is another uncard. Yeah. When garbage elementals enters the battlefield, to roll 2 6-sided dice, create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to the difference between those results. Well, there's nothing to do with contraptions here. Okay, so the first player to ever get counterspelled must have been very confused. Exactly. They were. Okay, Jay Jones says, my buddy plays Narset Parter of Veils, and since it says you may reveal the non-creature, non-land card and add it to your hand, he never reveals it. Like, how am I supposed to know he's not cheating? Oh, that's funny. I don't think this is that confusing. You say, you may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. No, the idea is you may reveal it. You have to reveal it as part of putting it into your hand. You're not allowed to just put any card in your hand. That's the whole point. You reveal it so that you know that they're not cheating. That's a funny way to misunderstand this card. See, I may put it into my hand. So I may reveal it to you. No, you're supposed to always reveal the damn thing to me. Okay, we have Crowcore. It's another super chat. Comet Stellar Pup. See what you guys done now? I mean, maybe we've run out of regular cards that are confusing, and now we have to go to the uncards. There's nowhere else to go. You said, awful to resolve. Okay, white, red, 2 generic for a 5 loyalty. Comet. It's got 0 loyalty. Roll a 6-sided die. If 1 or 2, +2. Then create 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. They gain haste until end of turn. If you roll a 3, -1. Then return a card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If it's a 4 or 5, Comet Stellar Pup deals damage equal to the number of loyalty counters on him to a creature or player, then -2. And then if you roll a 6, +1, and you may activate Comet Stellar Pup's loyalty ability 2 more times this turn. 6 is a good number to roll. 6, you get rerolls. But I think the card it does what the card, reading the card explains the card in this case. Today's definitely a day of, like, reading the card does not really explain the card whatsoever. Fireburn, the super chat. Goblin game. Okay, I'll look at this one again. But we already did this one. You super chatters should have been here earlier. Yeah, it is not that clear. My biggest problem was each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she revealed. I missed that part. Because otherwise, you just choose the highest number possible. Whoever has the least number of knowledge of numbers might lose. But here's the deal. What is the optimal strategy? Because you have to choose a number. If you choose the lowest, you lose half your life. So you don't really want to choose a number higher than your lowest part of your life total. Oh, so having a high life total is actually valuable in the Goblin game, because not everyone's going to be equal. Some people are going to have less life. Some people are going to have more. And also, so if someone has 4 life on the in play, you don't want to choose a number higher than 4. See, that's what's really confusing about Goblin game. Optimal strategy. Optimal strategy. Witherfang. Chaos Lord, OG text. Okay, you only want me to read the OG text because they cleaned it up. Red, 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 4 generic for a 7/7 Lord. First strike, Chaos Lord can attack the first turn it comes into play on a side. Except the turn it first comes into play. But it just came into play. During your upkeep, count the number of permanents. If that number is even, target opponent gains control of Chaos Lord. This card makes no sense. So we can attack the first... So basically, okay, I have haste. Except the turn it first comes into play, which makes it useless. And then you have to count. Okay, so what does the Oracle text say? Like, I'm never gonna derive what it actually does based on this. So that's first strike. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent gains control of Chaos Lord if the number of permanents is even. Oh, that's right. It's just the order that they have it makes it really confusing. So it doesn't have haste the turn it comes into play, but it will have haste under someone else's control. Chaos Lord can attack as though it had haste unless it entered the battlefield this turn. Got it. But at the same time, I don't got it. Did we look at Camouflage? Camouflage is an old card that's not part of an Unaset. Oh, good God. Very ghostly looking figure here. All right, we got green, instant. You may rearrange your attacking creatures and place them face down, revealing which is which only after defense is chosen. If this results in impossible blocks, such as non-flying creatures blocking flying creatures, illegal blockers cannot block this turn. You may rearrange your attacking creatures and place them face down, revealing which is which only after... Oh, I see. Okay, so you flip them over, you attack, and people are like, I don't know what I'm blocking. And then, so basically, okay, what happens if there is an illegal block? This turn, yeah, cast this spell only during your declare attacker step. So you declare the attacker. Instead of declaring blockers, each player defending player chooses any number of creatures they control and divides them into a number of piles. Oh, so it's like basically random. Creatures those players control that can block additional creatures may likewise be put into additional piles. Assign each pile to a different one of those attacking creatures at random. Each creature in a pile that can block the creature that pile is assigned to does so. I don't understand the thing about the illegal blocks. Like, what if I have a face-down creature that was unblockable? Like Blighted Agent or something. Then what happens? It just doesn't block? Okay, illegal blockers stop blocking. So it just doesn't happen. Yeah, that's a confusing card. That's confusing in my opinion. We got, oh, look at that. We got a super sticker. Thank you very much, Sean McCartney. I really appreciate it. For all of those who are watching live, go check out that super sticker. Blue Bomber. I assume a card with a flowchart is done. Chains of yeah, we did that. That was the first one. The flowchart. Chains of Mephistopheles, if you read it, 20 times, you'll get it. Eventually. I think. There is some parts to it that were confusing, though. Because of, it wasn't clear to me that if you mill cards from the top of your library that you get to draw cards or not, and basically the Oracle text, or like the rules text specified you draw nothing. You get nothing! Good day, sir! Alright, we got King Ginger with Stolen Strategy. Stolen Strategy is a red 4 generic enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. What's hard about this? So at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. So at your upkeep, exile their cards. And until end of turn, you can cast them. And you can spend mana as lower any mana. So like if it costs, let's say it costs red, 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 red. You can spend blue, 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 blue for it. Or I guess it's the opposite. You're obviously playing red, so. Magus of the Bargain says, there's a reason they don't print creatures with banding anymore, and it's not because banding is broken or unfun. Hey! Do not underestimate banding. Banding is way more broken than it looks. The same reason they print indestructible rather than regeneration. Yeah, well, regeneration is a mess. Anyway. What do we got here? Let's try to take... Is there anyone who didn't get a card at all? Can I bolt it while it's upside down? I think it's only during... Oh yeah, I don't know. In terms of that face down card thing. Rot Boy with Timberwolves. What's complicated about this? Oh, banding. Any creatures with banding and up to one without can attack in a band. Bands are blocked as a group. If any creatures with banding you control are blocking or being blocked by a creature, you divide that creature's combat damage, not its controller, among any number of the creatures it's blocked or blocking. It's like, the one thing is that you get to assign the combat damage however you want. Like 1 damage here, 1 damage there, 1 damage here. It's really stupid. Really, really hard to, I don't know, wrap your head around, I guess. Can't even fly. Reading the rulings on Ice Cauldron does not the card text. Oh yeah, Ice. No, we did that. Yeah, Ice Cauldron. Reading the rulings on Ice Cauldron is just as bad as actual Ice Cauldron. It's absolutely brutal. So we all remember Ice Cauldron here. I don't know, did I go through the whole thing? Produces mana of the last type used to put a counter on itself, not via any other Oh no, maybe we didn't read the Ice Cauldron rules texts. Yeah, this actually makes it a little bit more confusing. Produces mana of the last type used to put a counter on itself, not via any other charge counters. With a cauldron counts only mana spent on it, it doesn't see the value of X, so it isn't affected by cost reductions. Thus, if you spent colorless red on X, you get colorless red later, even if X was 6. You know, it just makes me realize, why didn't they just say you cast the card for free? They're like literally making you recast the card with the mana that you stored in the Ice Cauldron. You missed my Wheel of Fortune super chat? I don't think I got to it yet. No. I got to it. We did Wheel of Misfortune. Yeah, I got to your super chat, but we did Wheel of Misfortune. Anyway, you'll see in the replay. Seems like there's a limited number of really confusing cards. Crowcore Games. Zilortha. Apex. Whoops, hold on. No. Where is it? Is it the other side of this thing? Oh, you're talking about the other side of this. The siege. Alright. For each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Okay, I'll admit, I do not understand this thing the first time around. For each non-human creature you control, let's say I own 3 squirrels, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. I don't get it. The hell is this? For each non-human creature you control, you may have that. What is that creature? Oh, hold on. So, are we talking about each creature that I have? You may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So, like, is it saying all my creatures will assign combat damage? All the non-humans will assign combat damage as though they weren't blocked? It should say each. You may have each of those creatures assigned its combat damage. I think. Or it's talking about Zilortha as this is the creature. If it becomes blocked, you can still assign combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Yeah, but which creatures? Is it Zilortha or all of my non-human creatures I control? Yeah, non-human creatures deal damage to face instead of to the creature blocking it. And this is a modern day card. They just put this set out. This is a very new set. Take all creatures, decide for each one whether they deal damage to the blocker or to the player. This show's going way over time with all these super. I know. It takes so long to interpret these cards. It's not like we're reading cards and then moving on to the next one. We must understand. Just like Ruxa, I don't even know what Ruxa. For each non-human creature. It makes perfect sense, except it doesn't to me. This one isn't too complicated, I don't think. Or am I overcomplicating this? Okay, we need to go into... We're definitely going into overtime here. Yeah, we're going into part 2 now. It's literally just Thorn Elemental for non-humans. Super easy concept. You may have Thorn Elemental assigned its combat damage though it weren't blocked. So why wouldn't they just word it like that? For each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage. Okay. You know what? I think you're right. Just all the non-humans assign damage as though it weren't blocked. Yeah. I guess they're giving the option if they want to. All those non-human creatures go straight to the player. All right, I got it. Okay, this is gonna be one of those like the show ends when the super chats end. Okay, what do we have next? Brian F. Maybe Volrath's laboratories can be used to abuse the rigor by generating contraption rigor tokens. Volrath's laboratory. But what does like a rigor token even do? 5-mana artifact. As Volrath's laboratory enters the battlefield, choose a color and a creature type. 5, tap, put a 2/2 creature token of the chosen color and type onto the battlefield. So we can have a contraption token, but we just don't even know what it does. I guess so. Marcelo with the super chat. Tackle Mega, yeah, Tackle Mega does count, but we did this one already. Tackle Mega was very confusing. You know what I didn't do? I don't think I read the... Yeah, I read the original rules text. If the creature leaves the battlefield without going into the graveyard, Tackle Mega is simply put into its owner's graveyard. Hold on, how does it go to the graveyard? If the creature leaves the battlefield without going to the graveyard... I don't know why it would leave... Where else does it leave the battlefield? Oh, I see. So if it were to be exiled, it goes into the graveyard? Is that real? That's an extra thing on there? If the creature leaves the battlefield, Tackle Maggot is oh, I see. If the creature that it was enchanting, because this is an aura, right? It's just a weird aura. Fireburn! Have we talked about the rules nightmare of humility and opalescence on the battlefield together? No. And I actually don't know how that works, to be honest. Because this has never come up for me in, like, competitive Magic. White 2 generic. Each other global enchantment is a creature with power and toughness, each equal to its converted mana cost. It's still an enchantment. And then there's humility that's a... So what happens is humility becomes a creature. But then humility says, all creatures lose all abilities and have a base power and toughness 1/1. I'm assuming there's some layers thing that goes on here. And then if everything loses all abilities, then are they creatures or are they not? Oh, let me know in the comments section. It looks like Clarinet Guy is also interested in the this crazy humility and opalescence interaction. But we're talking... The show is about, like, you know, the cards that are hard to read, not hard rules interactions. Raikkonen! Actually, hold on. What does anyone know what happens here? What is the explanation? My brain hurts just thinking about this one. Yeah, this is where your head go explode. Kaboom. Everything's a creature. But at the same time, everything loses all abilities. But if everything loses all abilities, then we're not creatures anymore. Whichever one came in last. Ah, okay. I think Opalescence becomes a 1/1. Okay. So sometimes it's a layer thing, sometimes it's a timestamp thing. You never know. Alright, we got Ryokin with Terramorphic Expanse. Thank you very much for the super chat. Isn't this Voracious Reader Secret Lair? Unless you have a very specific one. the the super dense rules text version. Terramorphic Expanse Land. This card's name is Terramorphic Expanse. Land is a card type, and it has no super types or subtypes. A deck may contain 4 non-basic land cards with the same name. You may play this card during your main phase while the stack is empty, and you have priority. You may not play this card if it is not your turn, or if you do not have any land plays remaining. Remember, you gotta count your land plays. Imagine somebody playing a game of Magic. They like play a land. All right, my land plays now are up to 1. It's like storm count. You may play this card during you may land plays remaining while on the battlefield. This card is a permanent with the following ability: tap, sacrifice Terramorphic Expanse. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. This ability can be activated anytime you have priority, but only while Terramorphic Expanse is on the battlefield. To activate it, pay its cost, which is represented by the tap symbol and the phrase, sacrifice Terramorphic Expanse. The tap symbol denotes tapping a permanent by rotating it 90 degrees, at least 90 degrees. It is then tapped, and it cannot be tapped again until it is untapped. To sacrifice a permanent, move it from the battlefield to its owner's graveyard once the cost is paid. You must search your library for looking at all the cards in it. You may select a land with the basic super type from among those cards and put it onto the battlefield. If you do, it enters the battlefield tapped. You may choose to not find a basic land card, even if your library contains one. Regardless, you must shuffle your library after searching. I'm very curious. It says you have to look at your entire library by looking at all the cards in it. You have to look at all your cards. Someone searches their library and they don't look at all the cards. I'm going to say, hey, that's cheating. You have to look at all of them. Don't be looking at half. Don't be claiming you failed to find when you didn't even look hard enough. I was confused by the Drudge Skeleton Swamp. Oh, yeah. Everyone is. All right, we got Noel. Thank you very much for the super chat. Banding is powerful if you understand how it's used. Yes, it is. Where do we have a band? What's a banding creature? Where's the one with banding? I know there's falcons with banding. There we go. All falcons! Get +1/+1. Oh, and then white 1 generic. Target falcon gains banding until end of turn. I'm telling you, people. You can gang block. You can attack as 1. It's hard to block, and the damage is assigned very stupidly. You find the land you want, but you must look at all the cards. Yeah, you have to look at all them cards. Imagine this over-explaining land cycle, but for Dryad Arbor. Oh, God. Okay, King Ginger. Share the spoils. Thought this was stolen strategy. Red 1 generic enchantment. When Share the Spoils enters the battlefield or an opponent loses the game, exile the top card of each player's library. During the player's turn, that player may play a land or cast a spell from among cards exiled with Share the Spoils, and they may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast the spell. When they do, exile the top card of their library. They kept saying exile the top card of their library several times. Okay, let's get in for a closer inspection here. So, enters the battlefield or somebody loses, like in Commander. Exile the top card of each player's library, including your own. During each player's turn, that player may play... During each player's turn, that player may play a land or cast a spell from among cards exiled with Share the Spoils. So, like, oh, you, the controller of Share the Spoils, don't get to cast their cards. And they may spend mana or mana of any color to cast the spell. When they do, exile the top card of their library. During each player, that player may play a land or cast spells from among cards exiled. Ah, okay, so... This is neat. So you exile the top card of your library, and then if you play one of those spells, you can get to exile the top card of your library. So it's like extra card draw for everybody remaining in the game. That's wild. And then as more people lose, you exile more cards. Effectively. You don't get to cast the card. Like everyone, this is a very weird card to wrap your head around, but it makes sense. How have I never seen this card? These are some shenanigans. I love it. Yep. Get in on that. And buy your cards from FusionGamingOnline.com. Also, thank you very much to another... Was this another super sticker? many super stickers have there been? Oh, no, only one super sticker. Okay, am I missing anything here? Okay, I'm not missing anything. No, that's gonna be it for today. Because we've hit the time, we've more than way over hit the time limit. We almost went into like a whole new second show. Because it was like a slow show because we have to learn, understand what the hell was going on with these cards. Alright, well, thank you for being part of this. And if you want to be part of these shows, you got to be here 11 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. And thank you very much to all the people who support the show with the super chats and their suggestions, and people who are members of YouTube and patron on Patreon, because you guys make sure that I am here every morning for you, for all of you. And the coffee crew. Let's not forget the coffee crew that's here every morning, like Erland and Corbink and Poxy, J Jones, Rotboy, Crowcore Games, Witherfang, Erland, Beanpot. Who else do we have here? Jess, Megs of the Bargain, Alex, Noel, Rakuen. Yeah, because without you guys, I'd have no show. I'd have nothing. So as usual, my coffee crew, keep brewing up them coffees, and we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you